Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in today. I'm Julia Polston. I'm the manager of talent development with Indiana Constructors, Inc. And today I have the honor of meeting with Andrew Meeks. He is the government transportation safety specialist with 3M. Thank you for joining me today, Andrew.
Thank you for having me.
I guess we'll just go ahead and jump right into the questions. How long have you been with 3M in your position?
Yeah, I've been with 3M almost 8 years now. I started working for them after college. Worked up at their corporate headquarters in Minnesota for about 4 years, and then I've been down here in Indiana for the last 3.5, 4 years as well. So had a number of roles which we can jump into, I'm sure, but yeah, been at least in this state managing in this role for the last 4 years.
Great. So I feel like typically when people hear of 3M, I know for me, when I first started working for ICI a couple of years ago and found out you guys were a member of ours, I thought 3M, I think of school supplies and paper. And in highway construction, that's probably the first thing people typically think of about 3M. So I would love for you to tell us all about 3M, what exactly they do, because obviously you guys do more than paper products. So what you guys specialize in, just tell us all things about 3M.
Yeah. I will say you're not alone in jumping to the conclusion, the post-it notes and Scotch tape. That's you'd be surprised how many people I think still think that's all three of us. But no, it's actually a multinational, multi-industry, thousands and thousands of products. We actually started as a mining and manufacturing company. 3M stands for Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing over 100 years ago. And it's kind of grown since then to be kind of a multi-conglomerate, multinational company. I would still call us a manufacturing company at heart. Um, but I think more so now, people know us. We're big time in the adhesive industry. A lot of our products kind of cater around adhesives, um, multi-technologies. I would view them as probably one of the more innovative companies in the world. We seem to always kind of fall on those innovation lists that get released every year. Um, but yeah, I think they have over 55,000 products.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, it is. It is. I couldn't even tell you 90% of them, to be honest. But in this area, the transportation safety area, which is the division I work in, I think there's 28 divisions now. So this is just one of the many, but we cater around reflective type products for the roadways. So sign sheeting, pavement marking materials, construction work zone materials, conspicuity, which is the red and white tape you see on the sides of semi truck trailers, license plate material. A lot of that stuff all falls into our division, and that's kind of where I spend most of my time.
You work in a very unique side of our industry, which I think is really cool. So, as government transportation safety specialist for 3M, what exactly does that mean? What exactly do you do for 3M?
Yeah, so I spend most of my time. It's kind of a split role, which I like, and we can talk about that as well. But I spend a lot of my time with government agencies, primarily NDOT here in Indiana. But I do work with NDOT at the district level as well as the central office, and then work a lot with some of the local counties and city agencies as well. And I would say in a couple sentences, my goal is to help them upgrade the safety on their roads using brighter, more durable, longer lasting products through either sign sheeting or pavement marking materials. And do that in a number of ways. A lot of times we'll look at upcoming projects and kind of see where it might make sense to use some of these products and technologies. Sometimes they'll come to me if there's roads where they've been some bad accidents or they're looking for other options, things like that. But that's kind of where I spend most of my time, not only trying to get projects upgraded on safety, but doing a lot of training and education with these people who may not have seen the technology before, aren't as familiar with it as some of the older products we've been using for the last couple of years. And again, that's both at the state and the local level. Spend most of my time with the state though, but the other side of the job is working with the contracting community, a lot of
Hmm.
which are members of ICI, you know, because they are the ones actually doing the work. They're the ones buying the products, using the products, installing the products, also training and education of how to install it. You know, why are we using this? When they see it on
Hmm.
the job, you know, why are they buying it? Some of it's new to them as well. So yeah, I like it because it's kind of a multifaceted role. And I get to work with a lot of personalities, sometimes good and bad, but mostly good. It keeps it exciting.
Yeah, no, and another thing too, which I feel like is a misconception of our industry, is that we are behind the times and we're very old school, which a lot of people do have the old school mentality
Hmm.
in our industry. However, this industry is pretty innovative, with the products that 3M offers, but even just with technology when it comes to the different equipment and drones, I feel like when you say that, that sparks
Yep.
generation's interest a little bit more. Um, so that's great that you were able to not only have to focus on the sales aspect of it, but the education aspect of it too, which is great. Can you tell us a little bit how you got into the safety side or sales side of construction and what keeps you there?
Yeah, good question. So I kind of came in when I started at 3M. I started in this division. I actually went to school for finance. So I started as an accountant, running the numbers with our division and whatnot. So I got some exposure to the products and the people and whatnot. And then I moved into a global marketing role after that. This was all still up in St. Paul in Minnesota at the corporate headquarters. In that role, I worked with some of the sales reps and got some exposure to some of the customers and whatnot, and really was a much more hands-on role. Learned a lot more about the technologies and stuff that we offer. And that role kind of ultimately led me to say, hey, I want to get out and actually work with customers, get out into the field and be all hands on with this. Hence why I've been here now for almost 4 years. That's kind of how I got here. I stay here because I really do feel like the work I'm doing is meaningful. I mean, at the end of the day, we're improving safety and ultimately saving lives. I
Hmm.
don't think I would get that same sense of accomplishment or whatever you want to call it, selling post-it notes or selling scotch tape or a
Yeah.
different product that 3M has. Um, I always tell I have a couple friends in med school that are going to be doctors, and I said, hey, I save more lives than you every single day than you'll save probably your whole career. And I only went to school for 4 years and have no med
There you
school done.
go.
So, no, but in all seriousness, it is, there's a number of studies where we can attribute lives saved and crash reductions to some of our technology. And I think that's really cool. It kind of gets me out of bed in the
Mhm.
morning. So that's
Yeah,
why I
no,
stay
I
here.
love that. No, that is really
Yeah.
cool because you think of another misconception of the industry is people think it's really, really dangerous, which that is true to an extent. But, companies like 3M or even working with state agencies, for instance, one of the sole purposes of our association is collaborating and working with different people in the industry to improve the safety not only of our workers but of the traveling public as well. So that's great that you get to have some involvement in that also.
Definitely.
You mentioned you started at 3M after you graduated from college, but thinking back then, you were in finance, so your roles have changed. But is there anything that you can think of that made you want to join the team at 3M?
Yeah, I'm from Minnesota. I grew up in Minnesota, which is where they're headquartered. So they've kind of always been one of those staple companies, that's in your state that everybody wants to work for.
Yeah.
Uh, so that was kind of, coming out of college and college when I was looking for jobs, that was attractive to me. But in addition to that, I mean, they're a very, very well-known company. If you don't know 3M, their brands like Post-its, like Scotch tape. Even if you're not aware of what 3M is, which I've come across people that don't know that, surprisingly. It's just one of those large, good, stable companies that you hear nothing but good things about. Extremely ethical company, one of the most ethical in the world, very innovative. So I knew kind of coming out of college, there'd be a lot of opportunities for me there, and there have been. I mean, I've switched job functions, if you will, 3 times I think that says a lot about a company that lets their employees do that and all the same while stay with the company, which is important too. The other thing too on staying with the company, out of all the companies that I had kind of reached out to and heard of, 3M seemed to be the one that retained their employees most. I mean, it's not uncommon to hear somebody spending their entire career at 3M. Even now in our millennial age, when people are moving around a lot quicker than maybe they used to be, that to me was also telling in that, I looked at some of my friends and they're switching jobs every 2 years, switching companies every 2 years. And look, a lot of my colleagues have been here for, 10 plus years. And so that's kind of what attracted me to 3M and why I stay here. I'm very, very happy here. And I don't feel like there's a lack of opportunity. I feel like I could go wherever I want to go and I'd have the support behind it. So
one thing I do tell about people is if you do choose this industry, you're choosing a career, not just a job.
Yep.
I'm happy to hear that 3M fits in that with the rest of the industry, even though they're on the uncommon side of the industry. I know you mentioned some things that you like about your job, but is there one specific part that is your absolute favorite part of your job in highway construction? I know you mentioned you technically get to help essentially, but is there anything else that you can think of that you can think of that's your favorite?
Yeah. So this is it's my favorite part and it's my least favorite part some days. It's the work that I'm doing, ultimately what I'm trying to do is essentially change the standards of the state, right? Get them to use higher technology, more durable products on their projects. And when that happens, when a standard actually is changed, it's a huge deal. I mean, it's almost like a law is changing in the state. And I love that when that does happen, it's very rewarding. It's sometimes years in the making. So it's a lot of work, but when it happens, it's almost like it's all worth it. But there's, on a day-to-day basis, when maybe nothing is happening or there's no movement on kind of moving towards that standard change, it's tough. Sometimes you feel like you don't do anything or you're fighting an uphill battle or it's taking too long. So, there's days where I get in a rut and kind of say, oh, is this really going to work? But once we get there, it's very rewarding. And, knowing that is now going to be the future going forward and the safety standards going forward is awesome. So.
Oh, that's great. And safety is number one priority of everyone in the industry.
Yeah, which is good. And I think I'll just say another quick thing on that. I've been here 4 years now. When I first started, even from when I started to now, I've noticed a huge swing of just the appetite, if you will, from both the contracting community and INDOT to improve safety. I think there's a couple reasons for that. I think our budgets in Indiana are good. So they're willing to maybe pay more on the front end to get better performance and technologies and better safety on the back end. I also think there's some great people in great positions at both levels that are huge safety advocates, believe in, some of these changes in technology and willing to kind of stick their neck out, if you will, to make those changes. So it is great to see, even just, again, from when I started to now. And if we compare 10 years ago, it's light years different. So.
Yeah. So now I kind of want to get into more questions about you. Specifically. I know you kind of already went over your career journey, how you kind of started out your finance, you were an accountant, and then 3M gave you opportunities to switch and grow and move up in their company. So as government transportation safety specialists, explain to us what your day-to-day is typically like. And I know it's a little different right now because of the pandemic. So we can just kind of scratch the pandemic. It exists right now.
What would it be like?
Yeah. So a normal day-to-day, what is that typically like for you at 3M?
Yeah. So I manage the whole state of Indiana. So it varies day by day, week by week. But I would say on average, I'm usually on the road about 3 of the 5 days. I like to work from home Monday and Friday. And then I'll go travel and see customers, see INDOT, see the contractors, the rest of the days. But It's a lot of driving. I don't do any flying, but I will drive and have meetings with cities, counties, INDOTs on various things. It might be training and education of products. It might be looking at upcoming projects and kind of identifying areas of improvement. It might be a number of things. So that's kind of where I spend most of my time is on the road. But when I'm at home, it's a lot of administrative stuff, putting in opportunities in Salesforce, having internal meetings with my team and the marketing team up in St. Paul, things like that. So definitely busy, but I like it a lot.
No, it's good because when your day isn't the same every day, it keeps you on your toes.
It does. It definitely does.
Interested, and it just makes you love your job more than what you would
Yep.
if it was the same. Can you think of anything that stood out to you that just made you decide to switch positions and work in highway construction? Is there anything you can think of that sticks out in your mind?
Yeah. I mean, I touched on it a little bit earlier. The reason I moved from accounting into this role, regardless of construction, is because I wanted to be more hands-on.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to, be in front of customers. I wanted to work with people versus just kind of work behind a desk. And this industry, I think, takes that to a max almost. Being hands-on is being on the roads in a lot of cases. I'm on a lot of jobs. I'm working with a lot of people, whether it's in an office or out in a project setting. But I think that has been, again, one of my favorite parts as well. Just the complexity of it, the variability of it. It keeps it interesting, as you said. So
Yeah, and that's great that in your role at 3M, you're not only educating and selling products to contractors in the state, but you have the opportunity to actually get on a job site. And for those people who haven't had an opportunity to do that, I feel like that's something that you almost can't really explain the feeling of being on a job site and actually seeing a project in progress. So
mm-hmm.
that's awesome that that's something that you get to do often. It's not something you're allowed to do just one time, but it's something you get
Yep.
to do often. So that's really great because a lot of people don't get that opportunity.
I have a comment on that too, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I think, ICI, one of the things we always try and do is we have these meetings and there's a lot of changes that our organization wants to make in the industry, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's every meeting, there's a list of stuff that we're working on changing.
Yeah.
And in a lot of cases, a lot of the INDOT people are not out on the jobs. They're inside on, at their desks. And what I've seen and what I've done and I think been successful in some of this is trying to get those people who are decision makers and can make the changes out on the jobs to actually show them the issues in person. Because in a lot of cases, you don't really understand it or kind of know how bad it is until you're a part of it or you see it firsthand.
Yeah.
And it's quite a bit different, pitch black out, sitting on the side of the road with 75-mile-an-hour traffic buzzing by you than it is sitting in an office. That is a tactic I've used, and I think it's successful. It might be something ICI wants to try as well. But
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. So as the government transportation safety specialist at 3M, what would you say is your number one skill set that you need to have to succeed in your position?
I think just, this sounds maybe cliche, but just the drive to kind of keep pushing and keep fighting for change. It's not a fast moving industry in comparison to many industries. Some of these changes, like I mentioned earlier, can take years. If you look at it, on a day-to-day basis, it might be kind of, you might get disgruntled or unmotivated just because it doesn't seem like anything's moving, but you just got to continue to drive and stay positive and keep working towards what you're working towards. And eventually things will happen and the dominoes will fall and, things will start getting done. So that's kind of been the biggest thing for me.
Looking back when you were younger, so pre-adult life, is there any advice that you can think of that you would have given your younger self that would have helped you in your adult life at 3M?
Growing up, I wanted to just like be as rich as I could be, and wanted to have the big mansion and the Ferraris and stuff. And while that would be nice, still, I think I value different things now. I value a job and a career where I'm happy, where I'm comfortable, where I feel like I can grow. I value, work-life balance. It's not all about work for me. I enjoy hanging out with friends and family and whatnot. Um, Whereas I don't know if I could have said that, 10 years ago when I was a kid, if you want to call it that. But so I think that's probably the biggest piece that I've learned, and would tell myself that it's not all about that. There's a lot of other things that come into play later in life, especially, I don't have kids now, but once they do come in to play, that's probably going to be the number
Mhm.
one priority for me. So
Yeah, and that's great that you work for a company that allows you to have work-life balance. And I know anytime I'm talking to younger generation with Gen Z, work-life balance is just as important to them as it is our generation, being millennials.
yeah,
But also just like giving back to the community and improving the community is another big thing for them. And that's exactly what our industry does: is we improve the community that we live in. Um,
yeah,
so if you happen to be talking to high school students about your career path in highway construction, and maybe one of them, they're considering maybe getting into our industry, but not really knowing if it's a good fit, if they should do it, if they should pick a different industry, what advice would you give them about entering highway construction industry?
yeah. I think it's a great industry to enter. I think it's a little bit of a niche industry. It's
Mhm.
not one of those ones that always pops up on the top five industries to work in. But I do think there's a lot of opportunity. Obviously, there's a wide variety of roles, which caters to a wide variety of skill sets, depending on where people's strengths lie. I do also think too, there are certain people that are not wired, to sit behind a desk or work in that type of a setting.
Mhm.
Or even, I'll go as far as to say people that aren't wired to go to college. And
Yeah.
it's just that stuff is just not for some people. Some people like working with their hands. They like doing the laborers type work. They like building things. And I would say, there might not be a better industry than ours for people like that. A lot of opportunity where in a lot of cases you don't need a college education. You don't need to sit behind a desk. If you want to be more hands-on, there's certainly ability to do that here. So I would say, yeah, if these high school students, if they have any inkling of that, this is an industry they should check out.
Well, thank you, Andrew, so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to tell us all things about 3M, all the cool, innovative technologies and products that they have, and sharing your passion about what you do and how you help save lives and improve the safety of our industry. So I just really, really appreciate you taking time out of your day to tell us all that.
Of course. Thank you for having me. That was
All
fun.
right. Thanks.